Now last year, a couple of different Webbot reports, at least I believe, talked about, which this is nothing the Webbot report has not talked about previously either, talking about when the banking system goes down, the economy starts to go down, what we're going to see in regards to suicides, and banker suicides, minion suicides of the elite, etc. So here's another, you know, as if yesterday or the day before, we had 2 bankers commit suicide on the same day at 2 different banks that have both been known to manipulate precious metals, one of which was being investigated by the German authorities, who allegedly don't back down. You can't tell them, you know, pay a fine and get lost. So that's interesting. Now we have the next day, or 2 days later, January 30th is actually when this happened. Russell Investments chief economist found dead in Tacoma. It goes on to say, Mike Dueker, D-U-E-K-E-R, was found dead Thursday, and police said it appeared he had taken his own life by jumping from a ramp near the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. An officer who knew he was missing in the area spotted the body at around 8:30 a.m. at the base of a 40 to 50 foot embankment for a State Route 16 ramp, Pierce County Sheriff spokesman Ed Troyer said. Police... Okay, now that's odd. His car was parked at nearby War Memorial Park, and it appears he jumped over the 4-foot fence of a bike jogging trail along the ramp. Police do not believe the death was an accident. Police do not believe the death was an accident, okay, or that he was a victim of a crime, so he wasn't suicided. He flat out decided to jump. The 50-year-old apparently died early Wednesday when his family thought he was out jogging. Joined financial services company back in 2008, a spokeswoman said she couldn't speculate on any issues he may have had. He wrote for Russell's Market Outlook publications, forecasting the business cycle and the target federal funds rate. He developed and maintained a business cycle index published monthly at Russell.com. Now, that's interesting. He wrote about the business cycle, as they like to call that. And the business cycle, which is very interesting. Most people may have heard of that term and not really understood what it really means or cared. Just heard the term in a sentence and just let it be. Didn't care to even think what it means. And even fewer people know that it actually replaces a different term. And, for example, they come out in the government and they create a law called the Affordable Care Act. At face value, if you just read that in a sentence, the government today passed a law called the Affordable Care Act. You would see that and say, oh, good, yeah, it's about time we did something. Health insurance is freaking not affordable. It's a good thing. Not realizing that if you look at the law, the definition, it is nothing but not affordable. Anything but affordable. So, this is kind of the same thing. Business cycle. There's actually a cycle that was what they used to call it. And that was called, well, not a cycle, but a different term. The boom and bust cycle. When you have fractional reserve banking, when you're lending out, borrowing money, for one thing, you borrow money into existence, so it's got to have debt on it, you've got to raise taxes, you've got to come up with more revenue somehow from the citizens. It has to do with keeping this cycle somewhat at bay, but it has never, ever fully, truly kept at bay. As a matter of fact, you can clearly see that the boom and bust cycle, or now called business cycle, that sounds more professional. Get my tie on. the business cycle. The business cycle is the same thing. That's just a different name for it. Because if you start reading about the boom and bust cycle, you're gonna, whoa, the boom and bust cycle? What does that mean? But if you hear the business cycle, it just sounds like everyday business. You know what I mean? Just everyday stuff that's supposed to happen. But it means the same thing. It is the same thing. They just coined a new phrase to throw people off like they always do. So this guy's writing about the boom and bust cycle and decides to throw himself off a little cliff or whatever and kill himself. Now that's interesting, because the bust cycle that is coming is going to be of epic proportions, because this bust cycle, normally you have, it looks like a stock chart, you know, 10, 15, 20 year, whatever it is, good cycle, everyone's happy, everyone's making money, got a house, good, bust cycle, lost your job, can't find a job, you had to move back in with your parents, or your parents moved in with you, it's tough, got to sell one of your cars, you know what I mean? Then a few years later, boom cycle starts to come back in. Everything that's happening in those bust cycles is the elite are consolidating. They never have a bust cycle, ever. The bust cycle is only for the rest of us. And when the boom cycles kicked in, they've already bought up all the assets during the bust cycles for pennies on the dollar, and now get to ride the boom cycle all the way up. It's really good when the boom cycle's in, but the bust cycle, terrible for you, even better for the elite. So everything kind of resets, right? Housing prices drop, everything just kind of goes back, and they allow it, and in their minds, that's acceptable. We're in control to make sure that not any one individual or person out there gets to keep all the assets, gets to buy all the, you know, the property up, all the business offices up. No, we got to have them experience some pain so that they sell it off, someone else gets a chance, then the boom cycle starts again. They get to have it for a while, then it crashes, they have to sell it, they're in dire straits, then someone else gets it. And I think the elite think that that's like a good, we're in charge of it, we're in charge of this, and that's without us doing, you know, God's work, as Goldman Sachs said, Lloyd Blankfein. Without us doing God's work, it might not be so good out there in their eyes. Yet it's really good for them when they're the ones controlling it, and they always capitalize on the bust cycles, and then when the boom cycle comes around, it's just that much better, because whatever assets they purchased, now everyone else is starting to get some money. They're going to start making a lot more money with whatever they purchased, whether it was property or some new company, whatever. And I think that's why I just read that, was this in Norway? Goldman Sachs offers to buy an 18% stake in a privatized electric company, somewhat privatized, and it's basically the government's or the people's, and the people said, oh my God, took a poll, there's major opposition, other political parties standing up, and the bottom line is almost 70% of the population said, no, don't you dare sell any part of this electric company to Goldman Sachs. And some of them were even quoted as saying, which makes me proud, by the way, that people knew this, were quoted as saying things along the lines like, besides, Goldman Sachs is kind of a shady company, or besides, Goldman Sachs isn't the greatest company out there as far as ethics are concerned, stuff like that. Multiple people on this particular news website, I was in the United Kingdom, I forgot which one of those sites, but you know, one of their major news sites, and so I kind of like that, saying that at least people know why they don't want Goldman Sachs, as opposed to just saying no. They said no for all the right reasons. And the filthy, rotten politicians, you guessed it, still voted in favor. We're going to go through with it. So I'm going to tell you how this ends for the people. I think it was Norway. I think. The other day I was telling my friend at work, I thought I couldn't remember, and I was like, oh, I think it was like Romania or something. But actually, it's a smaller country, but I think it was Norway. Just bear with me on that. Just look it up. Goldman Sachs to buy 18% of electric companies, something like that. You'll find out which country it is. So they voted anyways. No, we want to go ahead with this deal. The citizens, and what 70% told you not to do it. You filthy, rotten pigs. Don't you do it when you've been elected into office to represent the people who then tell you what they want. Because what they want is usually good for everybody. What you want isn't good for anybody but yourselves and the person making the deal with you, which in this case is Goldman Sachs. And let me tell you how this ends, before I so rudely interrupted myself. Goldman Sachs will get in there. They're going to be sitting on the board. Someone, member of Goldman Sachs, will be sitting on the board. Later on down the road, we want to buy, this worked out good, right? Everyone's happy. Goldman Sachs is back again. We want to buy some more. We want a little more stake in the company. They may try to buy enough stake in the company where they can have a commanding share of the company, which means that they can make the rules. We are the largest shareholder. This is what we had a board meeting on, and since we're the largest shareholder, this is what we want done now. Now, 18% isn't quite enough to do that now, is it? But if you could get your guy in there and sitting on the board with lots of money in his back pocket, hey guys, I have an idea. We ought to raise electric bills for the people. Here's your payoff money. And they'll take it. And the next thing you know, the people's electric bill is going to start going up pretty significantly. And it's going to start going up at the worst possible time for the people during this bust cycle that I'm talking about that's coming. That'll be epic, of epic proportions. It's not going to be an average bust cycle. This is going to be a big one. And they're going to say, we don't have enough money to pay this electric bill, man. Come on, this is tough. It's difficult. We can't even feed our families. And Goldman Sachs, the new electric company, is going to say, tough luck. We've got shareholders we've got to report to. And we haven't been showing the greatest, quarterly profit. It's decent, but it's not like what we're used to. And there is no bust cycle over at Goldman Sachs, so shut up, suck it up, and pay the bill. That's exactly the blueprint that the IMF, International Monetary Fund, follows with poor countries that it knows in advance cannot pay back this loan we want to give it. And again, they go in there, they talk to some politician who thinks they know something about something. They don't know anything about freaking anything other than I'm a big shot and I got a suit and tie on and I'm in charge of some stupid part of the government that I get to make decisions on that no one else does. And they do a deal with the IMF, and then they find out we can't pay this loan back. We're falling back more and more behind. Of course you are. Have you ever got a credit card to pay off 2 other credit cards? Now you've got a bigger credit card. But the interest rate was right. So that's why we went for it. It was a lower interest rate than what we were paying before, so to speak, on the debt we had. But a simple calculation probably would have told you even that wasn't good enough. But you probably figured, in all your infinite wisdom, as a politician who knows nothing about anything except corruption in your own back pocket, that, well, it was a lower interest rate, so it's better than what we had before. But wait a minute. Did what you have before stipulate that if you can't pay it back, this people you owe the debt to all of a sudden can get your electric company or a power, your power company or a water company or some private or public utility? No, it didn't. But the new loan from the IMF does state that if you can't pay this back, we got to get some kind of asset back, and we'll discuss that. But first, we'll try to help you out. And by first, they'll lower the interest rate even more to make you to show you, hey, we do have good faith in this agreement. We're really here to try to help you. We lowered the interest rate. And then another month or 2 goes by, man, we still can't make this freaking payment. We're struggling here. Well, we tried. We can't go any lower with the interest payment at this point. So, electric company's looking pretty good. Water company's also looking good. Just which one you want to give us? And then they raise the rates on the people. The people only see it as the stupid electric company raised the rates on us today. Why are they doing that? Don't they see us all struggling? Don't they know the electric company's in the same city we live in? So why aren't they doing this? Because they aren't they anymore. They have a new boss. And the new boss is the IMF, or in this case will be Goldman Sachs. And they'll raise the rates. The people tried everything they could do in this instance to say, no, don't you dare do it. And the politicians did anyways. And the article then went on to say, these politicians may have sealed their fate for the next re-election campaign coming up. So what? We can vote them out. We need to do something now. They've screwed you over now. The deal is done now. They sold it off now. We'll just vote them out next time. Okay, that sounds like a plan. Now you can see why physical, deadly revolutions start and happen, because they can't wait to vote people out. They have to take care of things right now. So here it is, another webbot hit. Banker suicide, 3 in 2 days. That's pretty incredible. Take care.